Walking simulators have always had a staple in storytelling and world building, but these games have often been overlooked in the video game landscape. Since COVID in late 2019, these atmospheric and psychedelic adventure games have started to rise in popularity. I myself am a fan of these games, and like many, I enjoy when a game can tell a good story. Games like Half-Life, Portal, and The Last of Us all tell good stories, and they leave a lasting impact on the player. Games that can leave the player with emotion, even after the game has been beaten, are some of the best, and these games will always go down in the best games in gaming history. The late 1990s to the early 2000s saw a rise in video games that focused on telling a story. Yeah, games before this time told a story, sure, but they were simple, straightforward, explanations that just gave context to why you're doing what you're doing. But as technology advanced and gaming became a larger industry, with games being able to be more than just 8-bit 2D sprites, the stories of these games became more complex and detailed. Many games around this time started to practice world building. They would add stories and lore to these games to make the player feel more immersed. During this time, a subgenre of gaming was born. The walking simulator is a type of game that has very few controls. As the name suggests, it's a walking simulator. There's no combat, there's hardly any other people or creatures in these types of games. There's simply a world for you to explore, and this subgenre is often brushed off as boring and not worth your time and money. And for sure, a game where you just walk and look around may not sound interesting, but these games are more than that. They are a way to tell a story, a way to express feelings and character. It's like an artist with a paintbrush to a canvas, but it's a game dev with code to a game engine. After playing Babdi, I was left with a feeling of enjoyment. Babdi was a strange game that had some mystery to it and left me with questions and curiosity. And like I mentioned earlier, games that can leave a lasting impact on the player, even after the game is completed, always interested me. Most of these games go unnoticed by anyone. And even when these games are noticed, most people don't even try them out. Which is a shame, because these games are free, so I don't see why not. After my experience with Babdi, I wanted to find another game, so I browsed the Steam free-to-play section. After scrolling and not finding anything, I went the lazy route and just went to YouTube to look up top 10 free-to-play games on Steam. Most of these videos had the same first-person pay-to-win games, but after watching like 5 videos, I found it. While watching a video full of free-to-play first-person shooters that are basically identical at this point, one game stuck out. It had bright colors with a psychedelic landscape and atmosphere. This game was Lavalamp. This game is free, and it only takes about 45 minutes to an hour to complete on your first playthrough. In this video, I will recap my first experience playing through the game. Then towards the end, I will explain my theory on what the lore is. While editing this video, I reached out to the creator of the game, asking for an interview, and he agreed. So I'll play clips of our interview throughout this video to just give context of the game and to support my argument on what I think the story is. I'm going to upload the full interview alongside this video, so when you're done watching this, please go watch the full interview. The man behind the game was so interesting and fun to talk to, and there's so much messages to take away from it, so even if you don't like these types of games, please just listen to the interview. But without further ado, let's begin. Upon loading up the game, I somehow broke the title screen. I not only made the new game option disappear, but also the options menu and the quit option.
That's interesting. Now the new game option is gone. Now it's all gone. So all the options disappeared. I don't know what I did.
Thankfully, I mastered the ancient art of the Alt F4 technique and was able to restart the game. Our first bit of context is after pressing New Game, where we are told that the Space Lemmings from space need us. After this opening sequence, we are brought to a basic white room and we are given a nice tutorial to learn the controls. Like all walking simulators, the controls are walking, looking, and clicking. After looking around, we can click on this keyhole, after which it will display the time 7:59. Keep this time in mind. On the opposite side of the room is a couch with a note on it. This note reads, "Dear roommate, please get the basement key behind the magic ice cream cone. I've baked muffins and you can have some. Yours truly, Stone McSloth."
The letter is actually a direct reference to Super Mario 64.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like the first letter that Peach sends to Mario at the very beginning of the game.
Next to the couch is a nightstand with a picture that says Kiko is cool and has a picture of a lady. This picture has a 3D aspect to it, which is seen throughout this game and many other pictures, and I just think it's cool enough to mention.
And Keiko is actually a great composer from Montreal, and like she's a great composer. And like I just started, like I saw her picture on Facebook, and I just like messed around with it, playing with textures and stuff. And like at the end, I just let it in the game,
Okay,
just like cause let's see.
After reading the note, a hole appears on the wall we entered from. Clicking on the heart icon brings you out of the room, and clicking on it again brings you the prompt, "Are you bored?" When clicking no, it takes you back to the room, but clicking yes will progress you to the next section. After leaving this room, we are hit with one of the best intros in walking simulator history. After waking up, we hear our alarm go off with the time 8 o'clock showing, which is 1 minute past 7:59. Us seeing 7:59 first, then waking up and seeing 8 o'clock makes me think that we are in a dream for most of the game. This theory is further supported when after we turn off the alarm, we drift back to sleep. One thing I want to mention is that Gabriel is a musician and had been before making this game. He made this game by himself, and he made all the music for it as well.
Well, that's funny because like to me, I guess like my the way I created that game is a bit different too, because like since I'm a musician, like I really think about the music and like the space and the vibe that you can set. Yeah, you have a lot of control over like the reception of something if you are a musician. Like at the end, like if you have like a movie or something, like there's a scene and like it's a stressful scene, you can make it like a lot smoother with music and stuff.
And this game's soundtrack is absolutely beautiful, especially the alarm song. Just listen. When making this game, Gabriel focused on making it like a musical album. The pacing of the game and its world building is meant to reflect how an album would be like while listening to it.
I think because I'm mainly a musician, basically I've studied in music and I've been a composer. That's what my main job is, I guess. And so like to me, like making a video game that is a bit like the same pacing as an album. I like that idea of like having like the flow of like an album, a music album or something, and like
This is extremely inspiring because you have this guy who hasn't made a game before, but he's incredibly talented with music. So he takes what he's best at and uses that knowledge to try something new. And as seen in this game, it works out perfectly.
Bird sounds are great for the breakfasts to grow faster.
One thing that I will continue to praise till the end of time is the soundtrack of this game. When playing most psychedelic games, the soundtrack usually reflects the visuals. The music would be all random and wacky, similar to the environment. But as seen in this game, the music is calm and adds sort of a balance between what we see versus what we hear, instead of straight up sensory overload. Thanks to this game's soundtrack, it immediately sets it apart from other games like this. When we first enter this room, we are met with some of the calmest music seen in any psychedelic game. We're also met with some of the calmest visuals. There's sunshine shining into the room, birds are heard chirping in the background. Outside there are trees and light reflecting off the waves. This is a beautiful area and a great start to this chapter. One other thing I should add is that this room contains our first piece of dialogue.
Bird sounds are great for the breakfasts to grow faster.
After leaving this room, we're brought to an even larger room, which I will call the lobby. In the lobby, there are these trees that when clicked on cause weird symbols to pop up on the screen. At first glance, this might not seem important, but I believe these symbols give us a hint on what's really going on. Towards the back of the room, there are these spinning collectibles called friendship ship chips. For sure, I'm just going to call them Oreos, because that's what they look like. I know, creative. After collecting all of them, we are told that we can buy breakfast from vending machines. But no, you can't. Also, it tells us that Oreos fuel the friendship ship, which, given the name Space Lemmings from Space, we can infer that the friendship ship is a spaceship used by the Space Lemmings from space. Anyways, if we keep exploring, we can find a TV studio where we're given some important dialogue about the Space Lemmings.
Make it like a video, because I don't know like a chronological
With
order.
success, the Space Lemmings from space hired professionals for cameras and sound, while they kept the general artistic direction and stayed co-directors on the project. Sadly, the TV show had to stop. You have to save the Space Lemmings from space.
There's another room that's just so hard to explain, but it gives us some insight on how psychedelic this game can really get.
The Space Lemmings from space made many attempts to grow breakfasts indoors, but they never saw true success.
Also, this room tells us that the Space Lemmings tried growing breakfast indoors, which means that breakfast is important to them, and maybe they did this because the breakfast forest was too far. This was probably a way for the Space Lemmings to have breakfast be more convenient to them. As heard from the speaker earlier, bird sounds are great for breakfast to grow. And given that we hear bird sounds when we enter into this room, we can gather that these birds are probably here because of the Space Lemmings in their attempts to grow breakfast. It was also revealed to me that the bird sounds are coming from the speakers in this section. This implies that the Space Lemmings knew the effect that bird sounds had on breakfast, and they put speakers all around the building to help their efforts to grow breakfast indoors. But as the dialogue tells us, most like the TV show, this was not a success.
There was like the birds, like I couldn't come up with birds that would sound like appropriately coming from outside.
Mm-hmm.
And like it's so much easier from a programming standpoint to just like put a sound like in a place.
Yeah.
But like that makes it like directional, and like it's just like not natural.
Mm-hmm.
So I just put a speaker, and so like it works.
Yeah.
Like when you put a speaker, because like okay, the sound comes from the speaker, so like it can be like not like I don't know. So sometimes the universe would build itself from like the tools I use.
Mm-hmm. There's another room with a stove oven, and on this oven it shows the time 8 o'clock, which further proves that this time has some importance. Next to this is a hallway full of cereal boxes, and at the end is a door that leads to a bathroom. There doesn't really seem to be anything in this bathroom, but you can click out the window, and in the sky you'll see the prompt, "The Space Lemmings from space need you," as if we didn't know that already. Anyways, going back into the lobby, we can sit at a table and begin to eat breakfast. As we're getting ready to eat breakfast, we realize something.
Oh no. There's no milk.
Clicking on the cereal box, we begin to shrink, and we can find a small door behind a pot. After going through this door, we are taken to this place, which on the Space Lemmings from Space Instagram, it is referred to as the Protea Forest. But either way, this area tells us that whatever's next is not going to be normal. As we walk closer to this light, we are given some information regarding the creation of spoons.
Some people say that spoons were created for eating soup.
But before we are revealed what they were actually created for, the dialogue cuts off and we're given a very simple objective. We must activate the 3 spinning waffles. Before activating the waffles, I just wanted to explore, and I found a map. This map gave me a bird's eye view of the island, but it still looked as trippy as it did in first person. After activating all 3 waffles, we were told that spoons are actually created for eating cereal and milk.
But it's not true. Spoons were created for eating cereal in milk.
After receiving this revelation, we receive a vision of a space lemming asking for our help. And you'll never guess what this space lemming says. Come on, just try to. You won't get. It says the space lemmings from space need you. So if it wasn't clear before, the space lemmings from space need you. After this vision, we're brought back to the lobby where we have to go to a room with a window. Clicking on this window will bring us to the next area. While transitioning between areas, we're given more information on the space lemmings.
There are as many space lemmings from space as there are words in their language.
And like the last area, we have to activate 3 magic tarts. And like last area, I wanted to explore the environment before activating the tarts. While exploring, I came across a border that had the time 7:59 all over it.
That's weird. So if I get too close. Oh.
And while getting closer to the border, a loud humming noise sounds, getting louder as I got closer to it. Apparently, however, you can go through this border, which causes it to disappear. I don't know if it was intentional, but going further, there's another border that has 7:59 on it. This border, however, is more like a wall because it's actually solid, but I was able to get past it by going up a nearby hill and climbing over it. One thing that this border detail tells us is that it's got 7:59 on it, and we know that we wake up at 8 o'clock. So 7:59 being on the border within the game can be a metaphor of how this time borders us between the dream world and the real world. Seeing that at 7:59 we're asleep, but we wake up at 8 o'clock. And like going through a border in a game and you go out of bounds, going past 7:59 brings you out of bounds in the dream world, which would make the real world out of bounds to the dream world. So seeing the time 7:59 throughout the game just basically means that you're in a dream world. Now while we see 8 o'clock on the stove, I don't have a clue. Maybe just seeing the time 8 o'clock and knowing that we're about to wake up soon, and that's why we only see it periodically, but I don't really have any good guesses. Going further down the path, I was brought to a dead end. I tried climbing up the hill at this dead end, but I ended up falling down a pit and getting stuck. And after trying to climb out of the pit for like 20 minutes, I finally gave up and restarted the game. Luckily there was a save feature, so I was able to just load back into the beginning of the section. But after activating the first 2 magic tarts, something strange happens. These weird cutscenes play, and your visuals get all distorted. These cutscenes were also the main reason why I decided to get into touch with Gabriel.
L'apparition d'un Space Lemming from Space est une expérience qui n'est pas facile à décrire. Lorsqu'un nouveau Space Lemming from Space apparaît, il apporte avec elle un nouveau mot. Le nouveau mot et le nouveau Space Lemming from Space font alors tous partie de la conscience collective et un sentiment très fort que ceux-ci ont toujours existé et présent dans l'esprit de tous. Un vague souvenir d'un temps où l'existence de ce mot n'existait pas persiste.
As you can probably tell, these cutscenes are in French, which this was Gabriel's way of directly reflecting something personal of him into the game. This ties back into what I said earlier about a game dev having code to a game engine like an artist with a paintbrush to a canvas. Gabriel is from Quebec, so French is a big part of who he is.
I thought it would be fun for an English speaker, like just at some point there's a foreign language, like in a and those sound a bit like a documentary, like an old VHS documentary or stuff. That's what
Yeah.
I try. I don't explain it at all, but to me, I just try to make like these excerpts of like that weird documentary in a foreign language, like pop up. And like I just to me it was like a very easy way to like freak out people, just like okay, you have a weird French part in the game, just like it's a way to creating like like just a new thing. It was an easy way to create a new way. And it also, like, since I'm a French speaker, I thought it would be funny like to just like address it. Okay, I'm speaking French, so like why not a French part in the game?
Yeah.
Like to me it was just a funny idea too.
While going to the third magic tart, we are given information about the Space Lemmings language.
Can you have so many words in your language that you can't remember all of them? The space lemmings from space didn't even know how many words there were in their language. Can you forget words by learning too many? What would happen to the older space lemmings from space? These were the questions that the space lemmings from space had to go through.
This gives us a hint that these Space Lemmings lived as a society and a civilization, most likely having consciousness, which is also mentioned in one of the French cutscenes. After activating the third and final tart, we take a nice trip to the beach. The beach directly reflects Gabriel's knowledge of being a musician. You can kick these objects around and they make strange sounds, and as you move them, it'll add their sounds as dots on the screen like a beat maker in FL Studio. After moving these objects and making beats, you can interact with this pink blob, which will begin to play the masterpiece you have just created. I'll play mine as well as the sounds each of these items make.
Oh, when I click on it, it just launches. So I can move real fast. What the frick? I just hit that. I wanted to.
Wipe away
Turn up.
every tear from their
Oh
eyes.
shit.
Yes,
You mind if I praise the Lord? Go
for
ahead.
the revolution. Come on, what you say now?
Okay. I'm so confused. I'm just gonna wait till the line goes to the end. Oh.
Some mornings, eating breakfast is really hard. But you have to do it to save the space lemmings from space.
So, as we load into the next chapter, we see more French. This, in Canadian French, means breakfast forest, so we know we're getting close to our goal. When we load in, it is told to us that eating breakfast is important to save the space lemmings from space. At the center of these woods is another stove oven that has the time 8 o'clock on it as well. After we click on the stove, we load into the next area where it is told to us that breakfast is the most fundamental meal of the day. This is, however, disproven by MatPat's cameo in the FNAF movie.
Hey, welcome to Sparky's. Could I set you folks up with some appetizers?
We are not eating.
Well, that's no fun. You do realize that lunch is the most important meal of the day.
Thought it was breakfast.
Some people say that, but you know, it's just a theory.
Are you being paid by the word?
We end up at the top of these stairs, and after pulling the grandma maneuver, we see the most cinematic scene in walking simulator history.
You are in the breakfast forest. This is where breakfasts grow.
It is revealed to us that someone had already activated the 3 magic muffins for us. Was it Stone McSloth? Was it the Space Lemmings? I actually don't know. And yeah, I almost forgot about Stone McSloth too. Anyways, we have made it to the breakfast forest, and now we can finally save the Space Lemmings. Going through one of the many doors throughout the island, we follow a path to a vending machine where we can use our Boreos to fuel the friendship ship and save the Space Lemmings from space.
Sometimes eating breakfast is scary. Sometimes you don't see the direct result of your actions.
Even though you can't see them for real, the Space Lemmings from space wanted to give you a dopamine hit to thank you for all the good work you have done to save them.
Again, we saved the Space Lemmings from space. We made new friends in the galaxy. It's you and me again. The Space Lemmings from space. The Space Lemmings from space. The Space Lemmings from space.
Huh?
So, during the ending cutscene, it said that the Space Lemmings gave us a dopamine hit to thank us. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter responsible for you feeling rewarded after you do something, which makes sense as the Space Lemmings rewarding us. This also kind of backs up my theory of hallucinogens and toxic fumes, since something like this is present. And since the Space Lemmings are able to give us a dopamine hit just like that, then maybe they are responsible for the hallucinogens that cause us to see what we see throughout the game. A theory that I have that makes perfect sense is that through the game there are these plants and weird things that cause us to see what we see. These plants and stuff give out fumes that mess with our brain, and given that we see benches and tables throughout our journey, we could be safe to say that the Space Lemmings from space used to live in these areas, seeing as humans couldn't live here. I believe that through generations of habiting these lands, they have not only adapted to withstand the effects of these plants, but maybe even harnessed their power, which is why they can give us the dopamine hit. That and maybe these plants' fumes cause the Space Lemmings to gain consciousness and make a society, since it is mentioned that they have a language and made TV shows. This theory that I have can be backed up by a real life theory called the stoned ape theory, and it goes like this. Back in prehistoric times, when humans were hunter-gatherers and capable of understanding their surroundings, we discovered the effects of psychedelic mushrooms and plants that would alter how you saw around you. Through this exposure, we were able to see things beyond comprehension, and it allowed us to understand our surroundings and gain consciousness. One flaw in this theory, however, is that other animals have also been exposed to these psychedelic fungi and plants, and they have not gained consciousness, but that exists outside of the realm of Lavalamp. So these lemmings have become psychedelic, and maybe they wanted to expand their knowledge and ability. They wanted to reach past their limits as a species. Similar to humans, ever since we knew what was going on around us, we pondered the stars. Some of the earliest writings in human history depict the beauty and fascination with the night sky, questions and theories of what existed outside of our world. Was space the realm of the gods? Maybe the stars are part of a larger picture. This is where we got constellations. With the launch of the Sputnik 1 by the Soviet Union on October 4th, 1957, man had reached the stars, and similar to man, the lemmings pondered the stars, and they too found a way to go to space. They colonized space. They began to call themselves space lemmings. With this expansion in knowledge and abilities, their language grew and their species became vast. There were now as much space lemmings as there were words in their language, and like humans, with consciousness comes dread. The space lemmings began to question their existence. With the discovery of space, we see that it is an infinite void with no other sign of life. Where is everyone? Are we alone? The space lemmings began to think this way, and many feared that they would be forgotten. Similar to how humans fear of being forgotten, that they live only to die, and what will they show for it? What's the purpose if we're just on a floating ball in space? The space lemmings were scared, but since they were in space, they didn't have access to the psychedelics, and over time they lost their ability to control them. They needed our help. They left their homeland without the intent on coming back, as seen with all the friendship ship chips just left around. It's like driving a car while leaving all the gasoline behind, or something like that. You're only wanting to go from point A to B, but not back. But they wanted back. They couldn't stand the depression and the existential dread of loneliness among the cosmos. They wanted to get back to their homeland, not only because they were probably homesick, but because that's where their psychedelics were, and they were the only way of distancing themselves from consciousness. It was a way for them to take their mind off reality and drift into a world with no worries. By us putting the friendship ship chips into the vending machine, it fuels the friendship ship and they are able to make it back home, where they get back on the psychedelics and even regain their ability to control them. As a reward, they give us a dopamine hit. This game tells us that we need to save the space lemmings. Save them from what? It's space, so maybe some aliens, or maybe they're lost and need help getting back? No, we save them from their thoughts, from their voyage of loneliness, from their own consciousness. Now what does breakfast have to do with anything? Well, you know how people say stuff like they wake up, eat the same breakfast every morning, then live the same life every day? Life gets repetitive, and the game is telling us to eat breakfast every morning to keep the space lemmings safe. It's just telling us to do what we do every day. Live our lives. Don't think about the complexity of the universe. Just wake up, eat breakfast, and live your life the same as you always do. Don't let the infinite nothingness of space, or the mystery of the meaning of life, or any of the consequences of consciousness change how you live. Existential crises occur when you have too much time to yourself, and all you can do is think. So go out there and live your life to the fullest. Try something new, make new friends. Heck, try eating a different cereal each morning. Why spend your life worrying about its meanings, or why you have consciousness when you only have one life? Go live that one life. And that, my friends, is Lavalamp. One detail I missed is the dialogue from the French cutscenes, in which it tells us every now and then a space lemming from space will visit, and with them comes a new word, and they are then brought into a collective consciousness. This could just be aliens, or maybe the space lemmings have become so vast that some of them have become so distant that they can visit other lemmings that haven't been to space, and they enlighten them, like how humans can visit uncontacted tribes. The space lemmings visit these uncontacted tribes of unspace lemmings and bring them into their way of life, their consciousness. And maybe the heavy use of these psychedelic fungi made the space lemmings into a hive mind, given that it says collective consciousness, and fungi in real life operate as a hive mind. I'm sure this theory is not foolproof by any standard. I'm sure anyone can read this theory, listen to it, and probably find a few plot holes. But I'm not a Matt Pat or anything like that, so this is just my theory, what I got from it. And in the interview itself, Gabriel says there's not really a set story. This is up for your imagination. And so that's what I did. This is all my imagination. So that's my theory. I think it makes sense. I'm sure some people will agree. I hope. But now with that being said, that, my friends, is Lavalamp.
That is so possible. Like people like binge watch like for 10 hours series and stuff. And I have a lot of friends that don't play video games, but they do binge watch like stuff, like I don't know, whatever it is, like Stranger Things or whatever.
Yeah.
And like these people would love playing video games that are like narrative. I really feel like there could be like a lot of like good stuff that people would like outside of like the gameplay mechanics. Like people that are not very good at playing games, they could still enjoy those games.
A little side note, a little PS. I wanted to mention that in one of my emails to Gabriel, I had used Pyrocynical as an example, and he apparently had never heard of Pyrocynical, but had told me that he subscribed to him when I mentioned him. So just to inform you, Pyrocynical, you owe me a thank you. This video was made to introduce people to these types of games. Like books and movies, video games are a form of art, especially the walking simulator. And for people who love good stories, please try these games. And for the people who don't play video games because you think you're not good at them or aren't interested, try this genre. Look at these as a form of art and play for the experience and the story they tell. I want to thank Gabriel for giving me the opportunity to conduct this interview. He's a very nice guy and he has worked hard on this game. I can't stress this enough. Please support him. After I upload this video, I should have the full interview uploaded as well alongside it, so please watch it. Gabriel's a very interesting person and we talk about so much interesting stuff. Making this video and talking to Gabriel was fun and I hope you all enjoyed. With that being said, thank you for watching.
Never gets old, huh? Nope. It kind of makes you want to break into song. Yep. I love the mountains. I love the clear blue skies. I love big bridges. I love when great whites fly. I love the whole world and all its sights and sounds. Boom-de-yada, 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 boom-de-yada.
I love the oceans.
I love real dirty things.
I love to go fast.
I love Egyptian kings.
I love the whole world.
And all its craziness.
Boom-de-yada, 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 boom-de-yada.
I love tornadoes.
I love arachnids.
I love my magma.
I love the giant squids.
I love the whole world. It's such a brilliant place. Boom-de-yada, 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 boom-de-yada.
where did Space Lemmings come from?
The Space Lemmings from space. You have to say it the whole thing, because like
where did
you
the
might
Space
like,
Lemmings from space come from?
because it could be like another kind of space lemming. That's also like just there's this great artist that is called Lamont Young. Like he's a composer from like mostly the 60s, like of new music. Like, and this guy, he made like one of his good pieces, like the tuned piano, and it's a piece where he improvised for 5 hours on his piano and stuff with lighting and stuff. So it's between music and like performing arts.
Yeah.
And like he wrote a sentence at some point. It said like, draw a straight line and follow it. Like it's just like it's a music piece, and like just the only instruction is like, draw a straight line and follow it. And like to me, the Space Lemmings from Space is just like an idea I got and like just stuck to it.